Welcome to Municipal Affairs Year in Review. Today, we're reflecting on a year that has been as challenging as transformative for municipalities across Canada. This past year, our cities, towns, villages, and rural communities across Canada have been at the forefront of some of the most pressing issues of our time. From navigating the financial ripple effects of economic uncertainty to embracing innovation in infrastructure and housing. All the while, local governments have proven that they are more than just the closest to the people. They are the problem solvers, the innovators, and often the ones who make things happen, even when higher levels of government fall short. Joining me today to look back on 2024 in the Yukon Territories is the president of the Association of Yukon Communities, Lauren Hanchar. Are you passionate about local governance and municipal issues? Do you believe in the power of community-driven conversations? Then join us at the Cross Border Network, where we bring together voices from across Canada to shine a spotlight on the challenges and the triumphs of our municipalities. But we need your support to keep the conversation going. Visit crossborderinterviews.ca today to show your support by backing the show monthly or making a one-time annual donation. Your contribution will help us grow and expand our reach, bringing important stories to even more listeners across the nation. Together, we can make a difference. Together, we can amplify the voices of local communities. Together, we can shape a brighter future for all. Cross Border Network, where local matters and your support counts. Visit us today at crossborderinterviews.ca. President Hanchar, thank you so much for sitting down with me today and talking about the last 12 months in municipalities in the Yukon Territories. I want to start with a general question. And from your standpoint as the president of the Association of Yukon Communities, how would you describe the state of municipalities in the Yukon at the end of 2024?
Well, we are still here. I think, municipalities generally are doing well. The biggest issue facing us, obviously, not unlike most, I would say, municipalities across the country, is the long-term financial sustainability. We're facing rising costs in every sector, every single municipality. AYC has been advocating for an increase to the CMG for a number of years, which of course is the comprehensive municipal grant. So that's, I think municipalities are doing well, but there's always this thing in the background with the financial future.
Do you feel like in 2024, the municipalities have been heard by this current territorial administration?
We are hopeful that we have been heard. Like I said, we've been advocating for a number of years to get the Yukon government to the table to renegotiate this agreement that's been in place for some time, but has not been reviewed in a while. We were successful in actually getting YG to participate in a CMG working group or task force, which came up with some recommendations which were provided to the government for them to consider as they go through their budget process. So it's still a bit early for us to know what the outcome of that will be, but we are cautiously optimistic, but it's to be determined.
What's a win in the association's mind in getting more funding? Is it just doubling the grant that is currently in place, tripling it, or is it just having a more in-depth conversation with the government about the long-term feasibility of municipalities?
I think it is having that in-depth conversation. I wish it was as easy as just saying, let's just double it. But honestly, the formula is very complex and there are a lot of numbers involved. So I mean, we just need some sort of increase. We need it to be reviewed and yeah.
One of the big challenges that I spoke to your predecessor, Ted Laking, about earlier this year, actually probably beginning of 2024, was the issue around housing supply. And I know Whitehorse was dealing a lot around adding more housing stock into the already existing supply. For those communities outside of the largest city in the Yukon, is housing a big issue for your municipality members?
Yes, definitely. It's an issue everywhere. We don't have any empty units, so we don't have any extra units. So we do have at least in my hometown of Watson Lake, we have some lots coming online this year for the first time. I believe it's the first lot development in over 30 years. So we're going to see 43 lots come online this year. So we're really excited about that. But it's also really difficult to find contractors and to get mortgages and things like that in the municipalities. So there are a lot of barriers. And yeah, so we're working through all of that. I
What type
imagine
of
it's the
area?
same in the other municipalities.
It's the same issue across Canada. It sounds like getting developers in your community. And I was just talking to the president of the Northwest Territories Association of Communities, Rebecca Alty, as well, and she was talking about the affordability crisis as well, and it has caused developers not to want to come to communities that are in sort of more rural territorial places. How does the AYC and how did your municipalities sort of get more developers to come to the communities, because you only have a certain amount of money you can play with, and development costs is kind of a big thing if you just randomly say we're not going to collect any anymore.
Yeah, so truthfully, I wish I had an answer for that. We're actively still working through that right now. We did get some housing accelerator fund money in Watson Lake and a number of other Yukon communities as well. But I know in Watson Lake, one of our initiatives is to figure out ways to encourage those developers to come in, encourage banks to be more willing to, and I don't know what that looks like yet. Like we're literally still working on the programming to support that, but find out why people can't get mortgages and just to simplify the whole process. Because the issue is not people being eligible. It's like banks not actually wanting to invest in communities outside of Whitehorse.
So there's
Right.
a
So
multifaceted issue that we're facing, and it seems like you're at the early stages. And I can imagine at the end of 2025, this conversation would be completely different, wouldn't it be?
we hope so.
That's good to hear. Going back to the affordability crisis, a lot of these rural communities, and I say rural communities because most of your communities are not a hop, skip, and jump from any major international airport or hop, skip, and jump from any major center. How does the affordability crisis that is sort of sweeping Canada impact municipalities' ability to do work in the Yukon? Because cost of living, cost of goods is probably double in your territory than it is here in Alberta or even in Saskatchewan. Has that had a major impact on your budget cycle this year as you're heading into or already completed 2024, 2025?
Oh, absolutely. Municipalities aren't immune to the same effects of price increases of everything. I think one of the main ways we're seeing that affect us is, um, you know, like like you said, through the budget process, but like when we're putting tenders out, for example, for anything, a lot of times the tenders are going out and the bids that we get on those tenders are 2, 3 times the amount that the tender was for. And we're faced with the unfortunate situation of either having to cancel the project, completely modify the scope, or beg for more money. So, and the last option doesn't always work out well for us. So, yeah, we're seeing it a lot. And
So,
also, I would say,
go ahead.
sorry,
No, continue
I was
on,
just
and
going to
then
say
I'll
one.
then I'll add my last question. I think we're on a
Okay, I
delay
was just going
here.
to say one other way that we see the effects of that in our communities is also like not being able to have adequate staffing levels for various departments. Like,
Seriously,
it'd be nice to, yeah,
administration is being hit by the affordability crisis as well.
yeah. Well, I think just because our CMG is not, you know, what it needs to be, so we're just not, yeah.
No, understandable. But looking more in depth, the federal government, the territorial government, the municipal government all have to work together to address this issue. Are you getting a sense, because I know you were just in FCM last week speaking to federal representatives, do you get a sense that municipal issues are being heard from Yukon into Ottawa, or is it just sort of going over their head right now? I know it's a political question, but I've got to ask the political question a little bit here, President.
Yes. So I do think it's being heard because, like we already mentioned, a lot of the issues at a high level are the same across the country. Now, I do feel that, life is very different from lower Canada and the territories. So I do anticipate that there will have to be a lot of special, I don't know what the word is for it, but things will have to be a little bit different for the territories, and it might require some like separate negotiations. Um, Definitely.
Understandable. Climate change was another big issue that municipalities have had to deal with over the last 2 years. At the beginning of this year, your predecessor talked about the frost heaves that are going on and the permafrost thaw that's going on, and even potentially the wildfire situation that we see crop up, particularly in the spring. And for clarity note, I was supposed to be at this year's AYC convention, but wildfire and a moose decided that that was not going to happen. So I got to spend a few beautiful nights in Prince George, British Columbia, because I had to wait for my car to be fixed. With that
Oh
being
dear.
said, how do you feel municipalities have addressed the impacts of climate change and looking towards the future? Because this is going to be a follow-up to a follow-up question. How do you believe municipalities have set themselves up for potential future disasters?
I mean, I think that municipalities in the Yukon have been doing the best that they can with the resources that we have had. I know that the Yukon government has made some investments in the territory as far as fire smarting initiatives. I know we were in receipt of some of those funds in Watson Lake. We also have allocated some of our budget towards fire smarting. I know in our Watson Lake capital budget last year, we purchased two structural protection units, which was a huge purchase for the municipality, which, if anyone doesn't know, it's like a giant sprinkler. um, so I think we've been lucky the last couple of years as far as wildfires. We've super lucky. Um, but yeah, I think we've just been doing the best that we can with the resources available, and trying to be as prepared as we can, because it's just a matter of time before it will affect us directly. So
The reason for that question is because out of the AYC conference in Dawson City this year, there was a resolution that was put forward to ask the Yukon government to take a leading hand about the evacuation process that communities, because the Yukon government had put it back onto the communities. The communities were asking the Yukon government to upload that onto theirs. Did that happen? What's the state of that right now, or are the negotiations still going on?
yeah, so like you said, that resolution did pass unanimously, and I don't think that we've seen the response or the action on that we would have hoped for. And honestly, I will not be surprised if another resolution doesn't come forward at this year's AGM, to kind of support that or follow up on it. Yeah, so we'll be continue to advocate for that.
I want to turn to the future now, if you don't mind, and I want to talk about 2025. Actually, no, before we do that, I have another issue I want to talk about. And that is one of the big
Sure.
things that happened in 2024 from a municipal standpoint are municipal elections. Now, you were just elected as mayor of your community. So, first off, congratulations on that part.
Thank you.
But there was a significant turnover, whether it be vacancies or whether it be incumbents being defeated. Are you optimistic as we head into 2025 about the new crop of councillors, mayors, addressing local issues from a president standpoint?
I am. I think it's good to have some fresh blood. Like you said, we had a massive turnover in a large majority of our municipalities. Some, it really experienced people coming back as well. But yeah, no, I think everybody brings a really unique perspective and lots of experiences. And I am excited to see where things go. It seems like everybody's really eager. And we just had some elected officials training actually last week in Whitehorse. And people are asking really good questions. They seem to be really engaged, and yeah, excited to work hard for the communities.
One of the big relationship builders that you as president of the organization has to do is that relationship between yourself and the territorial government. Now, how has that evolved over the last year from your standpoint? And as we head into 2025 with a territorial election, are you hoping to extend that olive branch and build those relationships with the other two parties that are representative in the Yukon legislature?
Yeah, for sure. I think, like you said, a big part of this job is building and maintaining those relationships. Confident that I can work with anybody. AYC, for the most part, has had a pretty good working relationship with YG in the past. I think there have been a few things over the last couple of years that maybe, things weren't perfect. But I think that we're hopefully moving out of that. That being said, we have territorial elections coming up as well, so we're not sure what's going to happen there. So it, could be starting all over with well, not starting over, but different crew of people.
What's the one thing that you're going to be focusing on as president, as member municipalities, that you're hoping that the party leaders will address in 2025, heading into that November territorial election?
Honestly, the issue with the CMG and advocacy for increased infrastructure spending in the territory, because that's a huge one for all of us here. Obviously, because our population is so small, even in the city of Whitehorse, like the amount that we need to upgrade our infrastructure is like you couldn't ever tax or charge people enough to like cover the cost of that. Like it's never going to be a thing. And like the cost to upgrade this infrastructure is just so astronomical. So I think just issues around the finances, like those will be the things that we watch out for.
Are you finding, as going a little bit local to Watson Lake, if that funding doesn't increase, if that grant doesn't increase, are you going to have to put off potential infrastructure projects until 2025, 2026, or just forego potential infrastructure projects because you don't have the funding? And I hate to use the analogy, but I used one this morning with one of your sister organizations, the Nova Scotia Federation of Municipalities. You can't get blood out of a stone, and you can only ask the people of your communities to pay into a pot or pay more property taxes without them getting upset. So are you finding that in 2025 you're going to potentially have to forego infrastructure projects because you just don't have the money?
I mean, that's a serious possibility, truthfully. I mean, like we have obviously a very small town. It's 12,000 people, I think. A 1% tax increase here is like $15,000. We're talking about infrastructure projects that cost tens of millions of dollars. I think what we would need to finish our infrastructure project here is probably around $70 million at this point. So like, absolutely, if we don't get help, from other levels of government, there's a real possibility that we'll have to put those off.
Sort of, you answered it a little bit, but I want to play in the sandbox a little bit. If you had a magic wand and you were able to wave it tomorrow and say, this issue is going to be fixed, is it that grant?
Yes. Or some sort of I think in a perfect world where we can have anything we want, we would love to see some sort of successor to ISIP, like a similar program like that with like predictable infrastructure money that we knew was coming year after year, so that we could address these big expenses.
Is that the one issue that you hoped is off your table by the end of 2025? So if we had this conversation in December 2025, would you say, Chris, we got it done. I'm a happy camper and I can go away from the presidency a happy president?
I mean, yes. But I mean, the likelihood of that happening, I mean, let's be realistic.
I love a realistic president. That's always the best part about these shows. What are you optimistic about the future of municipalities looking into 2025? Because we've laid out some pretty stark realities that municipalities in the Yukon are going to be faced with in 2025: infrastructure, climate change, relationship with the Yukon government, whoever it may be at the end of 2025. Are you optimistic that municipalities will be able to weather the storm?
Um, yes. I think, you know, a lot, I don't want to say money solves everything, but it is a really big component to a lot of the issues that we're facing. And unfortunately, there doesn't appear to be enough money to go around federally, territorially, all the way down. So I do remain optimistic, but I think we're going to have to really get creative. Um,
What's your vision for Watson Lake? Because as the new mayor, you're going to be entering your first full year of the community. I'm going to go a little bit local. What do you hope to accomplish in 2025 for Watson Lake?
um, Honestly, to just keep everything on the rails. um, we
Sorry, I shouldn't laugh. I should laugh, but it's kind
I
of,
well, it's just the truth. So,
yeah.
we 8 years ago we were in a really unfortunate financial situation due to several years of mismanagement. We had 10 CAOs in 10 years. We had, I think, a bunch of issues. Um, we've worked really hard. So I've been on council since 2018. We've worked really hard, at least since then and a few years before that, to really turn things around. But that being said, it would just take 1 year of poor budgeting or any sort of mismanagement to just get right back there. And like we were literally on the verge of bankruptcy. So I just really want to watch that and make sure that we are planning wisely for the future and not just like next year, but like well down the line. So we'll be working on long term financial planning and asset management and, all of that fun stuff.
Lauren, President, I want to thank you so much for sitting down with me. I know this is our first conversation. I'm hoping it's not our last and we can continue this dialogue because I truly think municipal issues are a national issue and voices like yours need to be heard. So I appreciate you taking time out of your busy schedule, sit down and talking about the last 12 months in municipal governance in the Yukon. And hopefully we will, no, I'm not saying hopeful. We will see each other in Haines Junction this year because I
Oh,
am
awesome.
flying this time.
And it's our 50th anniversary. So we look forward to seeing you there. 50 years of AYC.
Thank you so much for tuning in for another episode of Municipal Affairs Year in Review 2024. If you've enjoyed today's episode, please hit that subscribe button wherever you're listening to this or following this. And if you haven't already, head over to our many social media channels, whether it be Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, and hit that subscribe and follow button now. We're always on the lookout for great municipal stories. And if you want, connect with us and send us your stories from 2024 so we could potentially chat with you in 2025. So until tomorrow, stay informed, stay engaged, and we'll be back with a brand new episode of Municipal Affairs.